What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we are talking the final week for most of you, week 16, important waiver wire pickups at the running back position. Not too many injuries this last week, with the major exception of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook going down with that shoulder injury, just second time re-injuring the same spot, most likely going to shut him down for a few weeks. Vikings very much likely going to make the playoffs, and they're going to want Dalvin Cook to be as healthy as possible for that playoff run. Yes, the games that they're playing are still very important to them, but I think they're probably looking at this situation as we're going to have a better shot at winning in the playoffs if we shut Dalvin Cook down. There haven't been any determinations yet as to whether Dalvin Cook will play or not, but based on what I've heard and my speculation on it is Dalvin Cook will not play this week. So if you're going into the championship game and you lost Dalvin Cook, you might be looking for some other options. So we're going to try to give you guys a few to look at today. We're down to 4 this week. There's not too many options on the waiver wire, but we'll go through them. For those of you that are just incredibly busy around this Christmas time and just need quick information, don't want me to go too much in the details, I'm recommending a pickup of Mike Boone to replace Dalvin Cook. If he's not there, Patrick Laird, Boston Scott, and Dion Lewis. But let's get into all 4 of these guys and talk about why they're decent pickups this week. So we'll start with Dion Lewis. He's 12% owned right now in Yahoo leagues, and he is technically the backup to Derrick Henry. I would definitely call this more of a defensive play, especially if your championship opponent has Derrick Henry. I don't think that Henry will miss this game, but he did miss a lot of time last week due to that lingering hamstring issue. And you never know with hamstring issues, they can always get worse instead of better. So if at practice this week, Derrick Henry re-aggravates the injury or makes it worse, there's a chance that Derrick Henry might not play this week. So anytime you have a chance that a bell cow running back isn't going to play, you want to pick up their backup just to make sure that he's not used against you. So this, like I said, definitely more of a defensive play. Even if Derrick Henry misses, unless you have Derrick Henry, you're probably not going to throw Dion Lewis into your lineup at this point. But defensive plays are always smart at this point. Don't let Dion Lewis go off on your opponent's team. All right, that's pretty much all there really is to be said about Dion Lewis. Yes, he did score a touchdown in this last game, but he was only used a little bit. Derrick Henry so definitely took most of the volume. So again, this is more of if Derrick Henry is more hurt than they're letting us know, or if he re-injures something during the week or makes something worse, then Dion Lewis becomes a very interesting name going into week 16. All right, another player here. This is for deeper leagues. I'm not recommending this unless you're in a pretty deep league, and these are the kind of names on the waiver wire. But Boston Scott, 8% owned. Plays the Cowboys this week in a must-win game for the Eagles. Now, in this game, it could go one of two ways. It could either be a low-scoring game that's disappointing for fantasy, or it could quickly turn into a shootout. Typically, what you see in must-win games with two teams that have less than average defenses, which I would argue would definitely qualify for the Eagles, and would be Dallas Cowboys defense is pretty average as well. Typically, those types of games are the ones that you want to bank on for a shootout. So if I had to put my money on this game, I'd say that is going to turn into a shootout. I don't think Jordan Howard plays again this week. He's already missed quite some time, and Miles Sanders had a nice little breakout last week. So I don't think the Eagles are in any position to try to rush Jordan Howard back. So Miles Sanders will most certainly be the running back to want to play in this game, but Boston Scott becomes a very interesting name in deep leagues for a flex. Past couple weeks, he's been involved about half of the snaps, but he's been used in the role that they were intending on using Darren Sproles for. Gets a few carries to spell Miles Sanders, and then gets a lot of his work in the short underneath passing game, very much so like a scat back. Again, very similar to what they were using Darren Sproles for before he went out. 2 weeks ago, he had 6 targets and 6 receptions for 69 yards. Last week, he had 7 targets and 7 receptions for 39 yards. So he carries a pretty decent floor for PPR leagues. Since he started playing, he scored 24 against the Giants. Now, granted, part of that was because Miles Sanders was hurt and had cramps for about a quarter, so Boston Scott got a lot of the work. And then last week, even with Miles Sanders going off for over 30 PPR points, Boston Scott still put up a healthy 13.5. So this is one of those, again, deeper leagues. I'm not recommending starting him over more proven options, but if you need a flex play, I think that it's highly likely that they continue to use Boston Scott in the same manner. They don't have many options on offense, so they're going to need everyone to perform again if they have any chance against the Cowboys. So I like Boston Scott this week. All right, number 2, I had him featured here last week, but Patrick Laird, 45% owned. Definitely had a little bit of a disappointing game last week, but he gets to play the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Bengals are 9th in fantasy points allowed to the running back position in the last 5 weeks. We just saw James White have a pretty good game against them, and Patrick Laird, very similar, being used in a very similar manner to James White, or even like Boston Scott, like gets decent amount of work on the ground, but also gets a lot of targets out of the backfield. So I like Patrick Laird, especially in PPR leagues. He carries a pretty decent floor just being involved. He's had 5 targets 3 weeks in a row, so that's what you want from a running back. Eventually one of those targets is going to turn into a touchdown, and if I was going to bet on any week for that to happen, I would say it'd be the week against Cincinnati, that they're better against the receivers and tight ends than they are against the running backs. I think this is a good week for Patrick Laird. All right, and then our number 1 guy, most likely out there, Mike Boone, 3% owned. So everyone had touted Alexander Mattison as the backup to pick up all year if Dalvin Cook were to go down. Dalvin Cook stayed healthy for most of the year, and then finally we get into the situation where it looks like Dalvin Cook is going to miss a game, but Alexander Mattison had hurt his ankle last week, and at this point we don't know that Alexander Mattison is even going to be available for this pivotal game against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night. So enter Mike Boone. Mike Boone is far more athletic than Amir Abdullah, and if the Vikings are without Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, then Mike Boone will get the majority of the work. I'm calling it now. He's just far superior of an athlete to Amir Abdullah. I think Mike Boone gets a significant chunk of the work. We even saw in Sunday's game, once Dalvin Cook left the game in the third quarter, Mike Boone carried the load from there, and he looked good while doing it. So am I expecting a Dalvin Cook-like blow-up against the Packers, who have been much stingier against the run as of late? I think in the last 5 weeks, the Packers have been 22nd in fantasy points allowed to the running back. Again, I'm not expecting a huge blow-up game, but if he's the main running back for the Vikings, you know he's going to get a tremendous amount of volume, carries a high likelihood of being able to score because of the Vikings' propensity to run near the goal line. I like Mike Boone as a decent replacement for Cook if you had Cook and need a running back, and if you don't and you're playing against the guy that had Cook, this is one of those similar to Dion Lewis. Just play defense, make sure even if he's on your bench, just get him on your bench, because then you don't have to face him, and if he goes off for 25 points, even if he's on your bench, you're still going to be happy because he didn't score points against you. So play defense. That's the only way that we actually get a chance to play defense in fantasy, is preventing players from being on our opponent's team. So take the gift that's given to you this week and pick up Mike Boone. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you. We're super excited for those of you that are able to make it to the fantasy championship. That's a huge accomplishment, and we want to do everything that we can to make sure that you guys can take home those titles and get ready for next year so we can repeat it again. All right, well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe for more content, and we will see you in the next video.